The legacy of time, the Mask of Merithium. A decade had passed since the timeline had been reset, and life for the Wells family had found a semblance of normalcy. Valerie, now in her 20s, was an accomplished scientist in her own right. Her younger brother, Cody, a sharp-minded teenager with a knack for technology, was just as drawn to their family's secret legacy with time. Together, the siblings kept an eye on their father, Jade, who had retired from his experiments, content to enjoy a quiet life with his wife, Claire. But the ripples of their past were far from settled. One evening, a knock on Jade's door changed everything. When he opened it, he was met with a man who looked eerily familiar, like looking into a mirror, only from a slightly different angle. The man had the same sharp features, the same piercing green eyes, and an unsettling smile that sent a shiver down Jade's spine. "Hello, brother," the man said. Jade froze. "Brother?" The man nodded, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "My name is Mallory Wells," the man introduced himself. "I suppose it's time we finally met." Jade was reeling. He had no idea he had a twin brother, let alone one who knew so much about him. "You must have questions," Mallory said, his voice smooth, almost too calm. "I've kept my distance for a long time, waiting for the right moment to reveal myself." Why didn't I know about you?" Jade asked, still trying to process it all. "Why now?" Mallory chuckled softly. "Our parents thought it best to separate us. You, with your life of science and good intentions, and me, left to discover the truth of our destiny on my own." "Destiny?" Jade asked, a sudden wariness creeping into his voice. Something wasn't right here. "Yes," Mallory continued, his voice lowering, "you and I are more than just brothers. We're kismets, beings with the power to affect time itself, though I doubt you've realized it yet." Jade blinked, completely thrown off by the word kismet. "What are you talking about?" Mallory gave a knowing smile. "You have no idea, do you? How could you? You've been living a small life, never tapping into the full potential that runs in our blood." "But I've discovered the truth, Jade. We're not like everyone else. And now, it's time you learned." Jade's mind raced, trying to process the information Mallory had just revealed. He had never heard the word kismet before, but something about it felt strangely familiar, as though part of him had always known he was different. Mallory's green eyes simmered with something dangerous. "There's an ancient artifact, the Mask of Merithium. It grants the wearer the power to control time itself. I've spent years researching it, tracking it down, but I can't retrieve it alone. I need you, Jade. Together, we can reshape the future, set things right." Jade hesitated, feeling a flicker of hope but also a gnawing sense of doubt. "And what exactly do you want with this mask?" Mallory's smile widened. "To fix what was broken. To ensure time is in the right hands. Our hands." Against his better judgment, Jade agreed to help Mallory find the Mask of Merithium, believing his twin had noble intentions. After all, they were brothers. As Jade packed to leave, Valerie, ever suspicious, noticed something was off. "Dad, you're not telling me everything," she said, her voice laced with concern. "What's really going on? Who is Mallory, and why are you going with him?" Jade paused, unsure how to explain. "He says we're kismets. Something to do with controlling time. I don't know what it means yet, but he's my brother, Valerie. I have to trust him." "That doesn't sound right. Kismets? When have we ever heard of anything like that before?" Valerie pressed, her concern deepening. "I don't know," Jade admitted. "But I'm going to find out." Reluctantly, Valerie let him go, but she wasn't about to sit idly by. "Something feels wrong," she told Cody after their father left. "I don't trust Mallory." "I don't either," Cody said, crossing his arms. "This whole kismet thing sounds sketchy. We need to find out what it means and stop Dad from getting into trouble." Valerie and Cody quickly got to work trying to uncover the truth behind Mallory's claims. Neither of them had ever heard the term kismet, and their research led to frustrating dead ends. But what they did discover was enough to raise alarms: ancient texts mentioning the Mask of Merithium and its devastating potential to manipulate time. If this mask is as dangerous as it sounds, we need to stop Dad and Mallory before they find it, Cody said, his voice serious. Valerie nodded. We need help, Cody. The Time Guardians warned us once before. They might know more about what's going on. Together, Valerie and Cody activated the portal technology their father had once hidden away, summoning the Time Guardians. We need your help, Valerie said as a shimmering figure appeared before them. Mallory is leading our father to find the Mask of Merithium. He claims they're kismets, beings who can control time. None of us know what that even means, but if Mallory gets his hands on the mask, it could be catastrophic. The Guardian regarded them for a moment, its form flickering in the dim light of the lab. Mallory Wells is a known threat to the balance of time. Kismets are indeed beings with the potential to manipulate the temporal flow, but they are rare, and their powers often come with dangerous consequences. The Mask of Merithium is a forbidden artifact. If it falls into Mallory's hands, he could tear the timeline apart. Then help us stop him, Cody said urgently. The Guardian nodded. We will guide you, but you must reach your father before Mallory can claim the mask. Meanwhile, Jade and Mallory had ventured deep into an ancient temple, hidden away in a forgotten corner of the world. The Mask of Merithium lay ahead, bathed in a soft, eerie glow. Mallory's eyes gleamed with hunger as he approached the artifact. We're so close, Mallory whispered, extending a hand toward the mask. But as his fingers brushed the edge of the artifact, Jade felt a growing sense of dread. Mallory's obsession with the mask, his cryptic explanations of what it meant to be a kismet, all suddenly felt wrong. Stop! Jade shouted, stepping back. This isn't right. You've been lying to me, haven't you? Mallory's smile twisted into something dark. Did I, brother? Or were you just too naive to see the truth? You have power, Jade, power you've never used. But I've embraced it. With the mask, I'll be unstoppable. Before Jade could react, Valerie, Cody, and the Time Guardians burst into the chamber. Mallory's eyes narrowed in fury, realizing that his plans were unraveling. You won't stop me, Mallory snarled, grabbing the mask. But before he could don the artifact, the Guardians intervened, their powers clashing with Mallory's in a swirling tempest of energy. Cody rushed to his father's side, pulling him away from the chaos. Dad, we've got you, Cody said, gripping Jade's arm. We're not letting you do this alone. Jade, shaken by his brother's betrayal, nodded, retreating with Valerie and Cody. As they escaped the temple, the Guardians sealed Mallory away, trapping him in a temporal prison before he could use the mask's power. The Wells family stood outside, watching as the temple collapsed in on itself, the threat of Mallory and the Mask of Merithium finally contained. You were right, Jade said quietly, his voice filled with regret. I should have listened to you. I wanted to believe in him, but some people can't be saved. Valerie nodded, placing a comforting hand on her father's shoulder. We stopped him, Dad. That's what matters. Cody, standing beside his sister, offered a reassuring smile. Yeah. We're a team. We'll figure out what this kismet thing means together. For now, they had each other, but the legacy of time and the mystery of what it truly meant to be a kismet was far from over. In the weeks that followed, life began to settle once more, but the shadow of Mallory's betrayal lingered, and the knowledge that the Wells family were kismets, beings with powers they still didn't fully understand, loomed over them. Jade continued his search for answers about what it meant to be a kismet, hoping to unlock the full truth of his powers without falling into the same darkness that consumed Mallory. Valerie and Cody stood by him, determined to uncover their family's mysterious legacy and protect the timeline from future threats. For now, they were safe. But as the stars turned overhead, one truth remained: time was not done with them yet. And somewhere, deep within the folds of time, Mallory waited, his plans for the future far from finished. 2 days had passed since Mallory had been imprisoned by the Time Guardians, but Jade's mind was far from at peace. The revelation that he and his children were something called Kismets had left him with more questions than answers. Jade felt an immense responsibility hanging over him, not only for his family but for time itself. Claire noticed the tension, the deep furrows on Jade's brow, and the sleepless nights he had endured. She approached him one morning as he sat quietly in his study. "Jade, you've barely slept. What's going on?" Claire asked gently, her hand resting on his shoulder. Jade sighed, his gaze distant. "I don't know how to explain it. Everything I thought I knew about myself, about us, has been turned upside down. Mallory said we're Kismets, beings who can control time, but none of it makes sense." Claire knelt beside him, concern etched on her face. "What does that even mean? And what about the children?" "Valerie and Cody don't know either," Jade admitted. "I need to understand what it means before I can explain it to them." "Then do what you've always done," Claire said softly. "Find the answers." Jade nodded, the weight of Claire's words sinking in. He knew where to turn. Later that day, Jade returned to his lab, where Valerie and Cody were busy recalibrating the equipment they had used to contact the Time Guardians. Jade joined them, determination in his eyes. "I need to speak with the Guardians again," Jade said. "I need to know what being a Kismet really means." Valerie nodded, understanding the urgency. She helped her father activate the portal generator, and soon enough, the shimmering figure of a Time Guardian materialized in the center of the room. Jade Wells, the Guardian, spoke, its voice ethereal. "You seek knowledge?" "Yes," Jade replied, his voice steady now. "Mallory told me we're Kismets. I don't know what that means, and neither do my children. I need answers." The Guardian was silent for a moment, its form flickering with light before speaking again. "The Kismets are a separate race of beings from us, the Guardians of Time. Kismets have the potential to influence the flow of time, but not in the same manner we do. You, Valerie, and Cody are Kismets, as is Mallory." Jade felt a pang of confusion. If Kismets are meant to protect time, why is Mallory trying to control it? The Guardian's form shimmered. "Mallory is different. He was taken as an infant, not by the forces of time, but by a being known as the Hooded Man." "The Hooded Man?" Cody echoed, stepping forward. "Who's that?" "The Hooded Man is a being who seeks to manipulate the flow of time for his own gain. He twisted Mallory's understanding of his abilities, warping him to believe that the Mask of Merithium would grant him control over all of time. The truth is, the mask only corrupts those who wear it. It would not make him a protector, it would make him a destroyer." Jade clenched his fists, anger rising in his chest. So, Mallory never had a chance. He was raised to believe that the mask was his destiny. The Guardian nodded. "Yes. The Hooded Man used Mallory as a tool, grooming him from infancy to seek the mask. His path diverged from that of the true Kismets long ago. But there is something else you must know." The Guardian's form shimmered as it continued. "The Kismets have asked to meet with you, Jade Wells. They wish to help you understand your true nature and the role you are meant to play." "Kismets want to meet with me?" Jade asked, surprised. "Why?" "They believe you have the potential to protect the timeline," the Guardian explained. "Unlike Mallory, your path is still open. You must learn the truth of your nature and how to wield your power." Jade was hesitant, but Claire's words from earlier echoed in his mind. He needed to find the answers, not only for himself but for his family. "I'll meet with them," Jade said, his voice resolute. "Wait," Valerie interrupted, concern flashing in her eyes. "You're not going alone, Dad. We need to know what this means for all of us." "I'm coming with you." "Me too," Cody added. We're in this together. The Guardian regarded the siblings for a moment before nodding. Very well. The Wells family will meet the Kismets. But know this, understanding the power of the Kismets comes with great responsibility. You must be prepared, and the consequences of your actions will be far-reaching. With that, the Guardian's form faded, leaving the room in a quiet hum. Later that evening, Jade and Claire sat together, watching the sunset from their porch. The weight of the conversation with the Guardians hung heavy in the air. You're really going to meet with them? Claire asked quietly, looking at her husband. This Kismet thing, do you think it's really who you are? Jade sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know. But I have to find out. For years, I thought I understood time, the way it works, the way we could protect it. But now, it's like I've only scratched the surface. Claire leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder. Just promise me, Jade, that you'll be careful. I don't want to lose you again. We've already lost so much. Jade kissed her forehead gently. I promise, Claire. I'll come back. We all will. The next morning, Valerie, Cody, and Jade prepared for their journey. As they activated the portal to meet the Kismets, Claire watched them with a heavy heart, holding on to the hope that they would return with the answers they desperately sought. The Wells family stepped through the portal, emerging in a realm that felt both timeless and infinite. It was a place where reality bent and twisted, where the very fabric of existence seemed to pulse with ancient energy. And there, waiting for them, were the Kismets. The Kismets were curious, radiant beings, their forms shifting between light and shadow, ethereal and powerful. Their presence filled the air with a hum of energy, and Jade felt an overwhelming sense of awe as he stood before them. Welcome, Jade Wells, one of the Kismets spoke, its voice both soothing and commanding. We have been watching you, and we sense the conflict within you. Jade took a deep breath, stepping forward. I don't understand what it means to be a Kismet. Mallory said we could control time, but all I've seen is destruction. What are we, really? The Kismet regarded Jade with a knowing gaze. You are part of a lineage that is connected to the flow of time. But unlike the Guardians, Kismets do not control time. You are meant to guide it, to ensure its balance is kept. Your power lies not in domination but in understanding the delicate threads that weave together the past, present, and future. Valerie and Cody listened closely, their minds racing as they absorbed the Kismet's words. For the first time, they were beginning to understand the gravity of their family's role in the timeline. Why is Mallory so different? Jade asked. He's a Kismet too, but he's chosen a darker path. The Kismet's light dimmed slightly. Mallory was taken by the hooded man, a being who seeks to unravel time for his own purposes. The hooded man twisted Mallory's perception of what it means to be a Kismet, convincing him that control was the only way to ensure his destiny. But that path leads only to ruin. Jade clenched his fists, a surge of anger rising within him. So the hooded man did this? He made Mallory into what he is now? The Kismet nodded solemnly. Yes. But there is hope, Jade. Your path remains open. You and your children still have the power to protect time and fulfill your true purpose as Kismets. The Kismet's words resonated deeply with Jade. For the first time, he felt a sense of clarity. He was not meant to control time like Mallory had tried to do, but to protect it, to guide it as part of something larger. Thank you, Jade said, his voice steady. I understand now. We will protect the timeline. We will stop the hooded man. We will guide you when the time comes, the Kismet replied. But remember, Jade Wells, the power of a Kismet comes with great responsibility. You must be prepared for the challenges ahead. As the family stepped back through the portal, returning to their own time, they knew their journey was far from over. The truth about the Kismets was only the beginning, and the hooded man still lingered in the shadows, waiting for his moment to strike. Jade, Valerie, and Cody returned from their meeting with the Kismets, their minds reeling from the revelations. The Kismets, led by the powerful being Sharera, had made it clear that they were not meant to control time but to protect it. Jade had also learned the truth about Mallory's manipulation at the hands of the hooded man, who had twisted his twin brother's purpose from infancy. Despite everything, Jade couldn't shake the desire to see his brother, to talk to him one last time. He needed to try to break through to Mallory and show him the truth, hoping that maybe, just maybe, he could bring him back from the darkness. The Time Guardians, however, were far from convinced that this was a good idea. As Jade stood before the shimmering figures of the Guardians in their realm, his resolve was clear. He had made up his mind. "You cannot see him," one of the Guardians said firmly, its ethereal voice resonating through the space. "Mallory is dangerous. His mind has been corrupted by the hooded man, and allowing you near him risks destabilizing everything we have worked to protect." Jade clenched his fists, trying to contain his frustration. "I know Mallory is dangerous, but I have to try. He's my brother, and I can't just give up on him. He was manipulated by the hooded man, he didn't have a chance to make his own choices." Another Guardian stepped forward, its form flickering with light. "Jade Wells, we understand your bond, but Mallory has made his decisions. There is no guarantee that you can reach him. If he were to escape again, the timeline could be irreparably damaged." "I'm not asking you to trust Mallory," Jade said, his voice firm but pleading. "I'm asking you to trust me. Let me try to reach him. Let me talk to him one last time. He deserves to know the truth about what happened, about the lies he's been told his whole life. Maybe that can change things." The Guardians fell silent, their collective energy humming through the air as they considered Jade's request. It was clear they saw the risks involved, but Jade's determination was unshakable. He knew Mallory better than anyone else, and if anyone could break through to him, it had to be Jade. Finally, the lead Guardian spoke again. "Very well, Jade Wells. We will allow you to see your brother. But understand this, if he becomes a threat, we will act swiftly to protect the timeline. Do not mistake our caution for weakness." Jade nodded. "I understand. Thank you." With the Guardian's reluctant permission, Jade was given access to the temporal prison where Mallory had been held since his defeat. The prison existed outside of time, a cold, swirling space where nothing grew, where nothing changed. It was here that Jade would confront his brother for what could be the last time. As Jade stepped into the temporal prison, the familiar feeling of unease washed over him. The air was heavy, and the walls seemed to hum with an energy that kept Mallory contained. Ahead of him, Jade could see his brother, his once imposing figure now sitting in quiet solitude, his back turned to the entrance. Mallory's head lifted slightly as Jade approached, but he didn't turn to face him. "You shouldn't have come here, Jade," Mallory said, his voice a low murmur that echoed through the stillness. "You won. Remember? There's nothing left to say." Jade took a deep breath and walked closer, his heart heavy with the weight of what he needed to say. "Mallory, I didn't come here to talk about who won or lost. I came here to tell you the truth." Mallory finally turned, his green eyes flashing with remnants of anger. "The truth? What truth could you possibly have that I haven't already heard?" Jade met his gaze, his voice steady. "The truth about our past. About what really happened to us." Mallory's expression faltered, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. "What are you talking about?" "The Kismets told me," Jade said, stepping closer. "The hooded man didn't save you, Mallory. He took you when we were infants. He separated us. Our parents didn't choose to keep us apart. That was all him." Mallory froze, his eyes narrowing as he processed the words. No, that's not possible. The hooded man told me our parents made the choice. They're the ones who left me behind." Jade shook his head. "He lied to you, Mallory. Just like he lied about everything else. He didn't want you to know the truth because he needed you to believe in him, to trust him. He manipulated you from the start. Mallory's expression shifted from confusion to anger, then to something more painful, realization. So, it was all a lie, he muttered, his voice shaking. Everything? All of it? Jade could see the conflict in his brother's eyes. Mallory had spent his whole life believing the lies the hooded man had told him, shaping his entire existence around a false destiny. Now, with the truth laid bare, he looked lost. Broken. I'm sorry, Mallory, Jade said softly. I know it's hard to hear, but you have a choice now. You don't have to follow his path anymore. We were never meant to control time. We were meant to protect it. Mallory stared at the ground, his mind racing. He thought back to the memories he had clung to for so long, the lies the hooded man had fed him to justify everything he had done. The betrayal hit him hard, the weight of it crushing him. For a long time, Mallory was silent. Then, finally, he looked up at Jade, the anger in his eyes replaced by sorrow. What do I do now? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Everything I thought I was, it's gone. You don't have to figure it all out right now, Jade said gently. But you can start by choosing a different path. You're not beyond redemption, Mallory. You've been manipulated your whole life, but now you have the chance to make your own choices. Mallory hesitated, then slowly nodded. I don't want to be that person anymore, Jade. I don't want to fight. Jade extended his hand. Then come with me, Mallory. Let's fix this together. After a long moment, Mallory reached out and took Jade's hand. The air around them seemed to shift, the tension of the past finally easing. Mallory had been trapped in the hooded man's lies for so long, but now he could see the possibility of something different, a chance to be free. For the first time, Mallory was stepping away from the darkness, moving from evil to something more neutral. He wasn't sure where he belonged yet, but he knew he didn't want to be a pawn anymore. What happens now? Mallory asked quietly. Jade smiled, a mix of relief and hope in his eyes. We move forward. Together. With Mallory free from his imprisonment and his thirst for control subsiding, the Wells family returned to their timeline. Valerie and Cody were waiting anxiously for their father's return, and when they saw Mallory stepping through the portal with Jade, their initial wariness was hard to hide. Is he? Cody started, glancing between Jade and Mallory. Jade nodded. He's with us now. Mallory stood awkwardly, his once commanding presence now overshadowed by uncertainty. He wasn't a villain anymore, but he didn't know where he fit in either. Valerie crossed her arms, watching her uncle closely. What changed? Jade glanced at Mallory and then back to his children. He's starting to understand that controlling time was never the answer. We were meant to protect it. The hooded man twisted his purpose, but he's free of that now. Mallory nodded slowly, his gaze dropping to the floor. I've done terrible things, he admitted quietly. But I'm not sure where I belong anymore. Valerie looked him over, her own cautiousness slowly easing. You don't have to have all the answers right now, but I hope you're really ready to change. I am, Mallory said, his voice almost a whisper. I don't want to be the person I was. Cody, ever the optimist, stepped forward with a smile. Then you're already on the right track. As the family reunited, Jade felt the weight of the past finally begin to lift. Mallory wasn't a villain anymore, he was searching for his place, just like the rest of them. There were still challenges ahead, especially with the hooded man still out there, but for the first time in a long while, Jade felt hope. In the days that followed, Mallory remained with Jade and his family, quietly observing and reflecting on everything he had believed in. He no longer felt the same pull toward power, but the question of what the future held still loomed over him. One evening, as the sun set over their quiet home, Jade and Mallory sat together outside, watching the horizon. The silence between them was comfortable, yet both brothers knew that the peace they had now was only temporary. You did the right thing, Jade said, breaking the silence. I hope so, Mallory replied. But what about the hooded man? He's still out there, isn't he? Jade nodded. He is. But we'll deal with him when the time comes. We'll protect the timeline, Mallory. That's what we're meant to do. Mallory turned to his brother, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. I never thought I'd hear you say something like that. Jade chuckled softly. I never thought I'd say it either. But things have changed. We've changed. The two brothers sat in silence for a few moments, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon. The peaceful setting felt like a reprieve from the chaos and tension that had defined their relationship for so long. Yet there was an understanding between them, an unspoken acknowledgement that this calm wouldn't last forever. The hooded man, what if I can't stop him, Jade? Mallory's expression grew more serious, the worry in his voice evident. What if I fall back into his control? What if I become like I was before? Jade looked at his brother, understanding the fear in Mallory's voice. The hooded man had manipulated and shaped Mallory for most of his life, and even though Mallory had turned away from that dark path, the pull of his past still haunted him. You won't be alone this time, Jade said firmly. We're in this together now. The hooded man may still be a threat, but we'll face him as a family. Me, Valerie, Cody, and you, we'll fight him. And we'll protect the timeline. Mallory nodded slowly, his face softening with gratitude. For so long, he had been alone, consumed by the lies and manipulations of the hooded man. But now, for the first time, he felt like he had a chance at something different, something better. He had his brother, and though he didn't know what the future held, he knew he wouldn't face it alone. Thanks, Jade, Mallory said quietly. For not giving up on me. Jade smiled. You're my brother. I could never give up on you. The two of them sat together as the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky, the warmth of their new understanding settling over them. The hooded man was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his chance to strike. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough. The Wells family had been through countless trials, battles with time itself and revelations of their true nature as kismets. But in the quiet moments between the storms, they found strength in each other. Mallory, once consumed by the desire to control time, was now learning what it meant to protect it. His relationship with his brother, Jade, was healing, and together with Valerie and Cody, they had forged a bond that no force, not even the hooded man, could easily break. As they moved forward, the threat of the hooded man loomed ever-present, but the Wells family was ready. They had faced the darkness before, and they knew they could face it again. With the Kismets guiding them and the Time Guardians watching over the timeline, they stood at the crossroads of destiny, knowing that the power to shape the future rested in their hands. For Jade, Valerie, Cody, and Mallory, the legacy of time continued. Their journey was far from over, but they would face whatever came next together, as a family bound not just by blood, but by their shared responsibility to protect the delicate balance of time. And as they prepared for the battles ahead, one thing was certain: time itself would never be the same again. The stars twinkled overhead as the Wells family sat together on the porch, enjoying the rare moment of peace. The weight of their journey still lingered, but the bond between them had only grown stronger. Valerie and Cody had become more confident in their roles as Kismets, and Mallory, though still grappling with the weight of his past, was beginning to find his place. Jade looked at his children and his brother, a quiet sense of pride swelling within him. They had come so far, and though the path ahead was uncertain, they were no longer alone. We'll protect the timeline, Jade said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. No matter what. Mallory nodded, glancing up at the stars. We will. The future was unwritten, but the Wells family knew one thing for sure: they would face it together, and they would be ready. The legacy of the Wells family had been forged in the fires of time, and now, it was their responsibility to ensure that time remained balanced and protected, for as long as it needed to be. And as the night sky stretched out above them, time itself seemed to hum in quiet approval.